I'm gonna make him the king of high school football in Illinois when it comes to
he absolutely
where
is.
all the guys are at.
Yep.
Our friend Edgy Tim is on the line, and Tim, I know you have a busy day. Thanks for taking time out. And I think, are you going to the College of DePage today, right, for some camp?
Oh, I've got all kinds of fun things in store for today. First of all, I'm the king of nothing. Just ask my wife and kids; will tell you that. But no, it's going to be a nice, comfortable day out there. Just telling your producer how much I love air conditioning. I don't think the older I get, the more I love air conditioning.
It really is the best. So we were talking earlier in the show, just kind of generally speaking. I know they've always done all these summer things in football, but it really seems like maybe the last 3 to 5 years, the notoriety of it has really picked up. Is that something you've seen where a lot of this summer stuff is getting much more coverage, kind of like maybe basketball picked up about maybe 10 years ago with their summer stuff?
Yeah, it's a great observation. I agree. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, just the increase of media attention.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be me and maybe a beat guy, and now there's 3 or 4 beat guys and a couple of different outlets, and it's just kind of that has increased. There's been more events, too. I think this summer has been kind of the crescendo of it all. Once they allowed your D1 colleges to take part in these satellite camps like the one today out at the College of DePage, it's really kind of, it's really, and something I wrote about earlier in the week is, the point of over-camping.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got kids that are, I can tell you, I can go to this camp I'll go to today. I can probably point to a dozen kids that I've seen at every single camp I've covered this year. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because, it gets to a certain point with kids and parents where you almost want to pull them aside and say, look, okay, the D1 dream isn't going to happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, but kids will go and parents will go and, they'll pay their $50 and get their shirt and take part, which is great because you love to see kids compete, but you would just like to see people and parents and kids be maybe a little bit smarter about it. There's been camps. Wow, I see minus Sundays and even some Sundays, like almost every day you can go to a college camp now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just increased maybe tenfold from 5-6 years ago.
Yeah. When you go to these camps or a lot of these 7-on-7s that are happening, because obviously that's a different environment than a game, what kind of stuff are you looking for? What are scouts looking at to try to see in some of these environments?
Well, I'll tell you right now, 7-on-7, it's very limited in what you can get out of it from my standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I like 7-on-7 for the fact that I actually get the coaches in one place. So, obviously one of the best resources for all the stuff I do are the head coaches. So a great chance to talk to them and get caught up. You can see some skill things. You can see your quarterbacks throw and your receivers throw. But even that's changed because of all this indoor winter 7-on-7 and what have you. Guys, I'll be honest with you, I almost can't watch quarterbacks throw anymore because I've been watching it for like 9 months now.
Yeah.
So I'm to the point with quarterbacks where, okay, yeah, I know who you are. I've seen you throw 15 different times. Let's just put the pads on and go.
Mm-hmm.
So I can really see what you can do. The college camps are a little bit different because, some of them are padded, some of them are non-padded, but it's still a little more football specific. So certainly from an evaluation standpoint, I put a lot more value into the one-days, the satellite camps. But, I've evaluated kids playing basketball. There's some just, general athletic skills and abilities that just translate. So you can take something really out of anything if you really try hard enough.
We're talking with Edgy Tim, and you can always find him at edgytim.com. I think we were both at DeKalb. We might even have talked to each other, but on this week for the 7-on-7. But Derek Kyler is a really nice-looking quarterback. I enjoy. That's the first time I've ever seen him throw, and that kid can really play some football, and it looks like he might get some D1 offers.
Yeah, and I hope so. And I tell you, Derek's been kind of throw him in a boat with about 5 or 6 other quarterbacks in the senior class that are just really, really good quarterbacks, but just not getting a lot of looks and a lot of bites. And it's a shame because, like you said, he was great at Northern, and I saw DeKalb last week out of Home of Flossmoor in a 7-on-7. And again, you don't have the pads on yet, but just from a skill standpoint,
mm-hmm.
DeKalb's going to be really good this year. So, they're going to put up a ton of points, and And he's a kid that, yeah, I agree. I tell you what, if I'm a D2 school, I got to be all over that kid because he's going to wind up being a really good player at the next level.
When you are a kid at that kind of level, what can he do to make a difference? Obviously he's doing the camps and things like that. What's something he can maybe do to try to stand out?
Nothing. At this point, he's done.
Yeah.
At this point, he's done everything he possibly can, and now it's to the point where he's going to need to go out and just have what he's capable of, which is a great senior year. Hopefully put up a couple of big games early, show some good video, and I find it interesting because a lot of the FCS schools in state, Southern, Western, Eastern, really haven't offered many quarterbacks yet. So I think these guys are kind of all sitting together, lumped together, and I really think the first couple of games are going to really separate, and you'll see some of those schools start offering kids.
Tim, we've also seen a lot of transfers around the state, but now the transfers are going out of state. I know you had two on here, the kids that have left Illinois. Jameer Whitelow went from Peoria. He's going to Victoria, Texas East High School. And probably the big one was Houston Griffith, who's leaving Mount Carmel and going to IMG, which is basically a sports academy that can't even play in the Florida High School State Championship tournament. What are you seeing? Is that getting to be something that's regular? I mean, are they up there recruiting and finding kids like that at 7-7s?
Well, yeah, IMG has kind of been doing this for a while, for as long as they've been around, and it's been pretty controversial, to say the least. It really hasn't extended here very much because, they focus on Florida, obviously, and Texas and California. You go to some of your major high school football programs there, and they'll be the first ones to tell you they're not real thrilled with IMG. So seeing a Houston Griffin out of here, get taken by IMG and brought down, they're definitely a surprise. Guys, summer used to be construction season. Now it's also transfer season. Mm-hmm. And, you guys have had some up that way. I know Marcus Hayes is transferring over to East, and I just kind of joked. It's like you really don't know what a team's going to look like until August. Once all the transfer stuff is done and they're enrolled and registered in school, then you'll have a better idea. But, it's definitely, that's one thing and maybe one of the storylines that I think really needs to be focused in on a bit more is that there's just a ton of transfers. And, a kid like the Whitelow kid down at Peoria, you totally get that. The mom got a job promotion, had to move out of state. Totally understandable. But I just think we're seeing a ton of transfers, sports-specific only, and to me, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, what's your feelings on the transfer rules? We've debated that a lot here. That it seems like, especially within the state, that some transfers get a hard time, maybe don't get to play or whatever, and then others just seem to kind of be able to do what they want when they want. How do you feel some of that stuff should be handled?
You don't like it. And you basically know the ones that are transferring for sports specific only. Mm-hmm. But how do you prove it?
Right.
And that's the problem. You run into it. This isn't the 70s. This is an era where people are moving. They're constantly on the go. They're renting, maybe not buying, and they're moving from area to area. Job changes, economic changes, family situations. If you're the IHSA, you've got to throw up your hands. It's impossible to try to have a handle on. Mm-hmm. And I think what people also don't understand is that when they hear IHSA, they think NCAA. Well, right. Last time I looked, I don't see a gang of investigators down in Bloomington coming to check all this stuff out, and they never will. So, I don't know how you resolve this. I don't think you ever will. I think the transfer rules are about as liberal now as they've ever been. And I think that's more out of necessity than anything. Do we become Florida and allow unlimited transfers? Well, no, that becomes a disaster. So it's a very, very difficult, not just here in Illinois, but really nationally as well.
You talked about Marcus Hayes. He's moving from Lutheran over to East, and he signed early with Western Michigan. And tell us what you think about him. He's going to play a little more defense, and he's a real nice wide receiver. I always liked watching him play.
Yeah, he is, and he's a kid, and I think Western Michigan will be the first one to tell you he's going to continue to get recruited. Mm-hmm. He's going to continue to hear from possibly Big Ten schools, and just as you mentioned, just a terrific athlete and a kid that, like I said, I would not be surprised if this fall more schools come in, and if they haven't offered, maybe will offer. So, again, everything I've heard, he's pretty solid, the Western, but, things can certainly change, and that's kind of another dynamic that we've seen where you get the extremely early verbal commitments, and then all of a sudden December rolls around and into January, and all of a sudden everything's kind of backing up, and kids are decommitting and everything else. So that's kind of been a dynamic of the recruiting, just covering it, that has really changed in the last couple of years, and I think we'll see it again this year. And I think Marcus is a kid that a lot of schools are going to kind of look at and maybe come after.
You go to all these camps and see all these different teams, keeping it kind of local for us. Is there anybody else that you've kind of seen at one of these camps, the 7-on-7s, whatever, that maybe you're kind of keeping an eye on for us from a local area here?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know that I actually had a chance to see Rockford Lutheran down at home at Flossmoor. And, I'm sorry, you guys probably know it's the young quarterback for Rockford Lutheran was really impressed with them at that 7-on-7. This is a really good athlete. Just saw a handful of really good athletes at Rockford Lutheran, and Bruce DeSalle. Unfortunately, I've known him for many, many years. I'm kidding when I say that, but and he's mellowed. No, not at all. But again, just definitely saw some kids that definitely caught my attention from Lutheran, and you mentioned that NIU camp, and boy, that lineman camp they have is unbelievable. I mean, you're talking 300 plus kids at that lineman camp. That was maybe the biggest camp I've seen that they've ever had, and there were a bunch of kids from your area as well that I thought showed pretty well there.
Also, Lutheran lost a kid named Trey Malone. He's going to be a freshman this year, and everybody referred to him as the next James Robinson, who's the Illinois career rushing leader. So they lost another kid, but you said they looked pretty good in their 7-on-7.
They did, threw the ball really well. So, I mean, that was, I had heard what was going on with Marcus, so kind of wanted to see for myself, and I think they're going to be just fine.
Gotcha. Well, when we look around the rest of the state, who are some of the teams that you think, come October, we're going to be talking about, as a potential state title team?
Well, it sounds like it's very easy to throw it out there, but you almost have to at this point where you kind of have to look at the usual suspects.
Yeah.
You've got Montini and Sacred Heart both moving up to 6A. Well, who cares? I mean,
right.
they're gonna compete no matter where you put them. I mean, I honestly think if you put Montini in 8A, they'd compete.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think you've got to watch out for those two right at the beginning. 7A, 7A to me depends on who goes where. Does Glenbard West stay 7A? Do they go 8A? Does Mount Carmel drop down to 7A? You guys saw last year, a school like Auburn, who's probably going to be very good again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those are you going to have to go through? Because, eventually that's what it's going to come down to. And then 8A, I think if you're looking at a preseason number one team, I think you got to look in the state. You got to look at Loyola. Absolutely loaded. I think Loyola is a program that's going to be around really at the top tier for the next several years. I mean, John Hollissick's done an unbelievable job, and they truly just reload. And so again, they're another one you have to watch. And then I think one of the interesting stories around the state that you guys probably are a ton familiar with. But it's certainly the area I live in, just outside of Joliet's a big deal. The whole Lincoln Way school story.
Mm-hmm.
4 schools merged into 3, and you've got 4 groups of athletes from 4 very good schools now merged into 3. Lincoln Way East has been maybe benefited the most out of it. They're going to open with a 120 varsity roster.
Wow.
That alone is insane, and the talent level as well. So Lincoln Way East is a team that they've always been good. But you're talking about a team that, if this continues, they could potentially be a dominant program in 8A. So that's just another one to kind of keep an eye on.
Before I let you go real quick, another kid that we're watching here is Harlem running back Brenton Shaw. He has a chance really to become the Nick 10 all-time leading rusher. He had a great year last year. What do you hear about him around the circles?
Yeah, some various interests. I know that he's going to get a lot more looks this fall. I know a handful of mentioned FCS coaches had mentioned his name a little bit. And again, I think, it's a different dimension here because there's not a lot of D2 schools around here.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's usually, you get those schools will start coming in usually once the season starts in September. I think that's when his action's really going to get going. I think maybe a D2, NAI level schools, and even some FCS schools as well will be taking a look at him. But I've heard nothing but really good things about him. So.
Well, Edgy, I'm going to stay in the house all day, enjoy the air conditioning. You enjoy that College of DuPage camp, okay?
Oh, I will, boys. I'll be thinking of the whole time when I'm sweating. But that's okay. Hey, there could be a lot worse things.
That's right.
Thanks a lot, Tim, and we'll talk to you again, okay?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking to Edgy Tim. EdgyTim.com. Check it out. He's also on Twitter. Yeah. If you want to keep updated on Illinois high school football.
I don't care what he says. He is the king of that around here, too. I've been, I remember... it started off as just like a message board, but I remember when I was in high school being on there, in kind of the early days when the internet's really starting to expand.
He's one of the pioneers of the guys.
Exactly. So, I mean, he's been doing this for a long time. He's got his finger on the pulse of the whole Illinois high school football scene.
And you can also see him on CSN.com. He's on there, too, so he's a big timer. Thanks for Tim being on today.